They told me to stay in my place, like I was a burden, like ambition was something I didn't deserve. But now, I own 3 homes, and they don't get to step foot in a single one. My name is Danielle Carter. I'm 46 now. But I remember the exact moment I stopped waiting for someone to believe in me. It was a Sunday dinner, 2 years ago, at my brother's house in Savannah, Georgia. My mother was piling greens on my plate like I was still 15. My brother, Craig, was half listening to my ideas, scrolling on his phone, and my sister-in-law, Camille, oh, Camille, she just laughed when I mentioned I was looking into real estate. "Just stay home, Danielle," she said, waving her hand like I was talking nonsense. "You always dream too big," Craig added. "And chase things you can't afford to fail at," Mom chimed in. I hadn't said anything extraordinary, just that I was looking into house flipping. I'd done my research. I'd taken online courses. I was tired of barely getting by at my admin job, living paycheck to paycheck in the same rental for nearly 2 decades. But to them, I was the family daydreamer, the one who'd tried and failed to start a handmade jewelry shop back in 2009, the one who'd stayed behind to care for Dad until he passed, while Craig built a career and Camille perfected her Instagram-perfect life. I remember gripping my fork tighter than I should have. That same night after dessert, I helped clean the kitchen like always. I packed up leftovers they said I should take, since I wasn't cooking for anyone else. And on the drive home, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I opened Zillow. Character introductions: Danielle Carter, 46, single, no children. Warm-hearted but underestimated, deeply loyal, quietly intelligent, and emotionally resilient. Craig Carter, older brother, 49, works in finance, pragmatic, condescending, emotionally distant. Camille Carter, Danielle's sister-in-law, 45, social media influencer, critical and performative. Evelyn Carter, Danielle's mother, 70, traditional, dismissive of Danielle's independence, emotionally manipulative in subtle ways. That night was a turning point. I started staying up late, scrolling through housing listings, watching renovation videos, and reading zoning laws. Like novels. I sold my vintage coin collection, Dad's old hobby, to take a real estate investing course online. No one knew, not even my best friend Amanda, because I didn't want encouragement. I wanted change. By spring, I made my first move, a fixer-upper in Macon. Ugly as sin, but with strong bones and a seller desperate to offload. I cashed out my retirement savings to buy it. Every penny. People say risk takes courage. That's only half true. Risk takes hunger, desperation, even. I was tired of scraping together rent while my family laughed at the idea of me ever owning a home. But I had a plan, and a secret weapon. No one expected anything from me. So I didn't tell them when I closed on the property. I didn't tell them when I scrubbed mold off basement walls or learned how to install drywall from YouTube tutorials. I didn't tell them when I flipped it in 6 months for a $42,000 profit, because I wasn't done, and I wasn't inviting anyone to the table. Until I owned it. Ending beat of section. The next time they saw me, I wasn't the Danielle they dismissed at Sunday dinner, and they didn't even recognize what I'd built until they asked if they could come stay. But by then, it wasn't their home anymore. It was mine. And the locks had changed. 6 weeks after I sold the Macon property, I walked into a bank in Athens with a check that felt heavy in my hands, like it carried more than just numbers. It carried every eye roll, every just stay home, every bit of silence I swallowed at family dinners. The banker looked at me twice when I said I wanted to open a business account under Carter Nest Holdings. I wore jeans and a t-shirt, with paint smudges still on the hem. But my voice? It didn't shake. I bought my second property with a 20% down payment the following month. A small 2-story in need of love, but not hopeless, much like me. I spent my weekends driving back and forth from Savannah, working after hours and crashing on an air mattress. Some nights, the plumbing made sounds like it was coughing up ghosts, but I didn't care. I was too busy watching YouTube tutorials on how to install backsplash tile or how to replace a toilet flange. I became fluent in blueprints, paint codes, and Craigslist negotiations. I started carrying around a notebook of material costs and timelines like it was a prayer book. And still, I told no one. Not Amanda, not coworkers, and especially not Craig, who once told me at Mom's birthday that passion projects are for people with safety nets. What he didn't know was that I was building my own net. Slowly, brick by brick. A hint of suspicion. One afternoon, I bumped into Camille at the grocery store. She glanced at my paint-streaked clothes and raised an eyebrow. Still chasing. That entrepreneur thing? She asked, smirking over her almond milk. I smiled. Just staying busy. Oh well, as long as you're not putting yourself into more debt. I wanted to say so many things in that moment. About the $42K profit. About how I was paying for everything in cash now. About how she still lived in a house her parents had co-signed for. But I didn't, because power is quiet when it's real, and I didn't need to flex. I let her walk away thinking I was still just the family burden with big dreams and no real results. It was almost fun. Now, letting them believe I was invisible, while building something they couldn't even imagine. The second win. The flip on the Athens house took 9 months. A lot of that delay was due to a burst pipe and an unexpected termite issue. I cried twice. Once when the ceiling caved in from an old leak, and once when I got the final offer, $89,000 profit. I had doubled my return. And still, no one knew. I moved into a modest apartment just outside Augusta while looking for my third investment. This one wasn't just about flipping. I wanted to own something permanent, a place I could keep, a home. Mine. The shift in power begins. Then came Thanksgiving. Craig invited me, just to be polite, I'm sure. I hadn't seen any of them in almost a year. When I walked into the house, I wore a navy blazer and slacks I bought with my first flip check. Camille was pouring wine, barely looking up. Mom was already talking about how hard it had been for Craig at work lately. No one asked what I'd been up to. No one cared to know. Until dessert. Craig's daughter, Lily, who was 10, asked me, "Auntie Danny, where do you live now?" Before I could answer, Camille chimed in, "Oh, she's probably still in that old apartment, right?" I smiled. "Actually," I said calmly, "I've just purchased my third property." There was silence, brief, stiff, thick. Camille blinked. Craig leaned forward. Mom said, "Wait, you bought another place?" I nodded, sipping my cider. "It's a small cottage outside Augusta, the kind with shutters and a wraparound porch. I'm keeping that one." Mom frowned like she couldn't process the words. "Bought with what?" Craig finally asked. I shrugged. Hard work, time, and a little strategy. They didn't like that answer, because it didn't come with permission or explanation. They didn't know I'd built an LLC, that I'd gotten a mentor, that I was already looking into short-term rental income. They only knew I wasn't just staying home anymore. And the part that burned them most? I didn't ask them for a single thing. Ending beat of section. That night when I got home, I lit a cinnamon candle in my new kitchen and opened my laptop. I had 2 offers in my inbox for renovation partnerships, but the one that made me smile the most was a text from Camille. "Hey, random question. Do you know any affordable Airbnbs near the coast? Thinking of a weekend getaway for me and Craig." I didn't reply, because I already knew which listing she was looking at. And she didn't even know it was mine. By the time Christmas rolled around, I had keys to 3 front doors. I didn't decorate trees or hang up stockings. Instead, I spent the week furnishing the coastal cottage, my third and favorite home. White-paneled walls, blue-gray, shutters, and hardwood floors I hand-sanded myself. It was simple, but mine. I remember standing in the middle of the empty living room, breathing in fresh paint and ocean air through the cracked window. No one had ever handed me anything this peaceful. I had carved it out with blistered hands and quiet nights. And I wasn't done. I made the decision that week. I wouldn't just build homes. I'd start offering short-term rentals. And that cottage? It would be my anchor. My beginning and my proof. Then came the call. It was Camille. Of course. "Hey, Danny," she said, voice syrupy and high. "We were thinking about taking a little trip with the kids during spring break. Maybe head toward Tybee Island. I saw this adorable cottage on Airbnb. Looked just like your taste, actually." I said nothing. Just let her keep talking. Then, she laughed. "Anyway, we thought maybe we could visit you. You know, stop by, see how you're doing. Craig said we should make an effort." Effort. That word was rich, coming from the woman who once rolled her eyes when I brought boxed stuffing to Thanksgiving. But I wasn't angry. I wasn't even surprised. I was calm. I waited a beat, then said, "Actually, I don't host family. Company policy." Silence. Long, awkward silence. Then, "Oh, okay. No worries. Maybe next time." But we both knew there wouldn't be a next time. Flashback to the hurt. It's strange how memory works. One phone call from a smug voice and suddenly you're 37 again, sitting on your mother's couch with a sprained ankle, listening to Craig say, "You're just not a builder, Danny. You're more of a support role person." Support role. That one stung. Because I had supported. I took care of Dad when no one else stepped in. I missed promotions at work. I spent birthdays at the hospital. And the moment he passed, the rest of them moved on like it had been some inconvenient layover. They said, "Thank you." Then, "You'll bounce back." Then, "You should probably just stay home for a while." I wasn't bitter back then. Just broken. But now I wasn't either. Mom comes knocking. 3 weeks later, I got another call. This time from Mom. Her voice was softer than usual. "Danielle, honey, I was talking to Craig and he said you've been doing well. Real estate, huh? That's surprising, but good. Very good." I waited. Then she got to it. "Well, listen, I was thinking of coming down for a weekend. Just to see you. Maybe bring some food. I know you must be busy and—" "Mom," I said gently, "I appreciate the thought, but I'm not taking visitors right now. Still working on some renovations." Silence. A different kind this time. Wounded. Cold. "Oh, okay. I thought maybe you'd want to see your family." I could have cried. For the version of me that used to jump at crumbs, who used to measure love by how often they called or what seat I was given at the table. But now, I was the table. "I do want to see my family," I replied, "but I want them to see me too, the real me, not just when I'm useful or quiet or lonely." She didn't respond to that. She just said, "All right, well, you know where I am." Did. But they didn't know where I was anymore, and that was the point. Building new roots. I planted lavender in the front yard of my cottage that week. I'd never gardened before, but something about digging my hands into fresh soil made me feel alive in a way I hadn't felt in decades. I hosted my first official Airbnb guests 2 weeks later. A retired couple from Vermont. They left a review that said, "This place feels like it was built with love." It was. It just didn't belong to the people who taught me to question my worth. Ending beat of section. That night, I sat on the porch with a glass of tea and watched the sun drop behind the water. My phone lit up again, this time with a group text. "Craig, thinking of visiting Tybee in April. Got any tips?" Camille. "Heard someone owns a place out there." I stared at the message, then turned off my phone, because not everything built in silence needs to echo in their ears. Some victories are private, and some homes are earned, not shared. It was mid-April when Craig showed up at my doorstep, uninvited. Not at my coastal cottage, thank God, but at the Augusta apartment I still kept for business trips and repairs. I was in the middle of running cost estimates for a new plumbing project when I heard the knock. At first, I thought it might be a neighbor. But when I opened the door and saw him standing there in his khakis and polo, holding a Starbucks cup like a peace offering, I felt that old weight return. The one I used to carry at every family gathering, of not being enough, or worse, being too much. "Hey, Danny," he said, as if we'd spoken yesterday. I stared at him. Everything okay? He gave a practiced chuckle. Yeah, just thought I'd stop by, wanted to talk. I didn't move, didn't open the door any wider. He cleared his throat. Look, I know things have been a little weird between us, but Camille and I, well, we're going through some stuff, financially. There it was, the real reason. He was here because I wasn't a punchline anymore. I was a possibility, a solution. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. What kind of stuff? He winced. We had a few investments go south. Camille's contract with that skincare brand didn't renew. I just got downsized from my firm. We're staying with her cousin right now. Just temporary, you know? I didn't say a word. Just let the silence stretch. Craig, for once, looked embarrassed, and that was rare. We were hoping... I saw your Airbnb listing. It's nice. Real nice. Thought maybe you'd let us stay for a bit. Just a week or two. We'd pay, of course. Of course. Except they never would have. Made the offer if I were still just staying home. Memories beneath the request. It was almost poetic. The same brother who once told me at age 32 that I wasn't built for ownership was now asking to live under a roof I'd paid for, in cash. My mind flashed back to birthdays forgotten, to Christmas mornings I spent alone while they took family vacations, to the time Craig told Mom I was too sensitive to be taken seriously, and now he wanted in. He wanted warmth, security, dignity, the very things they used to mock me for trying to build. I looked him square in the eye. You want to rent my cottage? Just for a little while, he said quickly, until we get on our feet again. It'd mean a lot. I considered it, not because I was tempted, but because I wanted to be very sure of my answer. No, I said plainly. Craig blinked. What? I don't rent to family. You know that. He scoffed. Seriously? After everything? Yes, I said, cutting him off. After everything. That's exactly why. Aftermath of a hard no. He left without another word. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel cruel. I felt sad. Because it didn't have to be this way. I would have shared anything back when sharing meant something. But they never saw me as family when I needed them. They only saw me as convenient when it suited their comfort. Later that night, Camille texted me. One line. So much for blood being thicker, huh? I didn't reply. Because family isn't about blood. It's about showing up when someone is invisible. It's about choosing someone even when they're struggling, not just when they're successful. A surprising support. That same week, Amanda, my old friend I'd kept at arm's length, called me. We hadn't talked much in the past year, mostly because I'd been afraid of being pitied or doubted again. But she said something that stuck with me. I always knew you had it in you, Danny. I just didn't realize how much you were carrying alone. For the first time in a long while, I let someone back in. Not Craig, not Camille, but Amanda. We met for coffee, and when I told her about the cottage, the flips, the LLC, she looked at me like I was brand new, like she was proud. And this time, I believed her. I gave her a tour of the coastal home 2 days later. She walked through each room in awe. This feels like you, she whispered. It was the first time someone said that, and meant it. Ending beat of section. That night, while Amanda and I sat on the back porch laughing over old stories, I got another text. From Mom. I told them not to come to you, but they're desperate. If you help them, I'll understand. If you don't, I'll still understand. And that might have been the closest thing to love she ever sent me. But even that wasn't enough to unlock the door. It was a Wednesday evening when the past came knocking, literally. The sun was just setting over my coastal porch, casting soft amber light across the white railings I'd painted myself. I was barefoot, carrying a cup of chamomile tea, halfway through reading an article on short-term rental taxes when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, and no one ever just showed up here. I set the cup down and opened the door, carefully. It was Mom. Not in her usual pressed cardigan or pearl earrings. She looked tired, her hair undone, her eyes rimmed red like she hadn't slept. And beside her, clutching a duffel bag, was Lily, Craig's 10-year-old daughter. I stared at them both for a moment, trying to piece it together. Mom spoke first, voice gravelly and low. I wouldn't have come, Danielle. I swear. But Lily... She didn't want to go back. I opened the screen door slowly. Back where? Craig's been staying with a friend from work since Camille left. They've been fighting, yelling. Not a good place for her. I took Lily for a few days to help out, but I can't do more than that. She asked for you. My eyes flicked. Down to Lily. Her face was blotchy and quiet, like a little adult trying not to make noise. I knelt down. Hey, Sweet Pea, you okay? She shrugged. I just wanted to come here. It's quiet here. You always listen. I swallowed hard. A choice I didn't see coming. I hadn't planned for this. I had a life now built on structure, solitude, and boundaries that protected my peace like a fortress. But here was Lily, a child I adored, standing in my sanctuary like a quiet plea I couldn't ignore. I looked back at Mom. What about Craig? He doesn't know I'm here, she said softly. I couldn't tell him. Not after what he said last time. He blames everyone but himself. Typical. I'm not asking you to fix it, she added, just to hold space for her a little while. Please, Danielle. I wouldn't ask if I had any other choice. The walls bend. I let them in. Lily sat quietly on the couch while I fetched her some lemonade and a peanut butter sandwich. She ate like she hadn't in days. I showed her the guest room, fluffy sheets, soft lighting, a small bookshelf filled with stories. She smiled for the first time. That night, after she fell asleep, I sat across from Mom in the living room. We didn't talk for a long while. She finally broke the silence. You've done well for yourself, you know. I didn't reply. I'm sorry I didn't see it. Before, she said. I think we were all too used to the version of you who gave without asking for anything back. I blinked away the sting in my eyes. I wasn't ready to forgive, but it felt like maybe, for once, she saw the woman I'd become, not the daughter she dismissed. I didn't do this to prove anything, I whispered. I did it so I could finally feel like I belonged somewhere, even if that place had to be built from scratch. Mom nodded slowly. You did it, Danielle, and you didn't just build a home, you built a backbone. Reckoning with the past, and what comes next? The next day, Craig called. I didn't pick up, but he left a voicemail. I heard Lily's with you, Mom told me. Look, I'm not proud of how I've handled things, but don't keep her from me, please. It didn't escape me that he still hadn't said sorry, still hadn't acknowledged what he'd put me or Lily through. I called my lawyer the next morning and asked about temporary guardianship options, not to take Lily away from her father, but to protect her, to buy her peace. I wasn't doing this out of revenge. I was doing this because the cycle had to end somewhere. If I couldn't rewrite my past, maybe I could safeguard hers. The power of being the safe place. Later that week, Lily helped me bake blueberry muffins. We laughed when the batter spilled, and I told her about how I once burned an entire tray of cookies in that same oven. As she giggled, I realized something. This home, this life, it wasn't just for me anymore. It was a legacy. Not in the traditional sense, with grandkids and holidays around the piano, but in the way I showed a little girl that peace can be earned and kept. That she didn't have to tiptoe in anyone's shadow. Ending beat of section. That evening, as Lily curled up on the couch and drifted off to sleep, I looked around my home, the one they told me I could never have, and I whispered, more to myself than anyone. They said just stay home, so I built one they could never take from me. 2 weeks passed. Lily had settled into a rhythm. School, quiet evenings, muffins on Saturdays. She thrived in small ways. Less flinching when doors closed. More laughter during board games. She had her own drawer now, a toothbrush with a rainbow handle, a pair of slippers with soft ears. And I I realized something profound. Peace wasn't quiet because nothing was happening. Peace was quiet because finally the wrong people weren't invited in. I stood one morning, coffee in hand, watching Lily ride her bike down the gravel path in the front yard. The same one Craig never thought I could own. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt rooted. And then, the family came knocking again. It was a Saturday when I got the text. This time, from Camille. "We're in town. Thought maybe Lily would like to see us. Can we stop by?" And just like that, my chest tightened. No apology. No context, just entitlement. Again. They thought enough time had passed. They thought I'd softened. I didn't answer. Instead, I turned to Lily and asked, "If your dad wanted to visit, how would that make you feel?" She looked up from her cereal and hesitated. "I don't want to go back there. I like it here. It's quiet. It's safe." I nodded. "You don't have to go anywhere, baby. You're exactly where you're supposed to be." That night, I replied to Camille. "Lily is doing well. She needs stability right now. Please speak with the lawyer regarding visitation. Take care." No more emotional gymnastics, no more guilt. The last visit. The following week, Mom called. "I'm not here to ask for anything," she said. "I just want to come see you. Just me. No Craig, no drama." Something in her voice felt different, not rehearsed, not manipulative, just tired. So I agreed. She came over on a Sunday morning, holding a bag of lemon scones from a local bakery, the same kind I used to love as a kid. I brewed tea. We sat out on the porch, the breeze wrapping around us gently. For a while, we didn't speak. Then she looked out at the garden, the flowers Lily and I planted, the clean white paint of the porch railing, the wind chimes I'd hung by hand. "You really did it," she said quietly. "You built something we never believed you could." I sipped my tea. "I did it because you didn't believe I could." She looked down, ashamed. "I don't know if I can ever make up for that." I shook my head. "You can't. But you don't have to. I'm not here to punish you, Mom. I just needed you to see me, for real. Not as the girl who failed at crafts or stayed too long in one place, but as the woman who turned silence into space, dismissal into drive." She didn't cry, but her eyes glistened. "Is it too late?" she asked. "No," I said gently. "But the rules are different now." We hugged when she left. It wasn't healing all at once, but it was something. Maybe even the start of something true. A closing and a new opening. That summer, I officially took guardianship of Lily for the next year. Craig didn't fight it. I think deep down, he knew she was better here. Maybe part of him even respected it, though he'd never say it out loud. Amanda helped me design my fourth property, a small, vibrant duplex I plan to offer to women starting over. Women like me, the kind no one believes in until it's too late. To say they were wrong. I called it the Phoenix House, because what better symbol than a woman who rises, alone, from ash? The final invite that never came. Sometime in the fall, I got a wedding invitation from one of Camille's cousins, handwritten, floral border, RSVP requested. Craig and Camille were back together, trying again. I flipped it over once, twice, then slid it into the trash without opening it. Some stories didn't need full circles. Some doors stayed closed. Ending beat of section and story. One evening, Lily sat beside me on the porch, sketching flowers in a small journal. She looked up and asked, "Did you always want a house like this?" I thought for a moment. "No," I said. "I didn't even know I was allowed to dream this big." She smiled. "I want to build something too. One day." I kissed her forehead. "You will, and you'll build it on your terms. Just make sure the door only opens for the right people." We sat there in silence, wind chimes dancing behind us. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was proving anything to anyone. I just felt home.